In this lesson, I'll show you how to calculate the break-even point. When it comes to modeling revenue and cost, the point at which the revenue equals to the cost is referred to as the break-even point. Everything after this critical point suggests that the company is either profiting, positive cash flow, and everything before suggests a negative cash flow. To model the revenue function, we'll represent it as R of X is equal to the price per unit sold times X, and X represents the number of units, and that's an unknown. To model the cost, we write down C of X is equal to the fixed cost plus the cost per unit produced times X. Once again, X represents the same thing. The question reads, a company is planning to manufacture radically different wheelchairs. Fixed cost will be $500,000 and will cost $400 to produce each wheelchair. Each wheelchair will be sold for $600. So technically, they are gaining $200 for every wheelchair given the difference here, except there's a fixed cost which puts the company at a loss right away. Question A asks, write the cost function C of producing X wheelchairs. So we'll represent C of X is equal to the fixed cost, which is $500,000, plus the cost per unit produced, and we're told that it costs $400 to produce each unit. So plus 400x. Question B asks, write the revenue function R from the sale of X wheelchairs. So we're told from the question that we'll be selling each wheelchair for $600. So a revenue function, R of X, is equal to 600 times X. Notice that X in both of these represents the number of wheelchairs. Finally, determine the break-even point and describe what this means. Let's start by algebraically finding out what X is, which denotes the X coordinate of the break-even point. To do this, we can use either substitution or elimination method. And to do that, I'll set both C and R as a variable Y. That's common in both. And you can do that because both C and R represent the same thing, that is money. So I'll make these equations. Y is equal to 500 plus 400x, and this one becomes y is equal to 600x. Of the two techniques you've learned on how to solve equations, this is a system of equations, I'll use substitution. In other words, I'll take 600x and substitute it where I see the y here. So I have 600 x is equal to, in the right side of this equation, 500 x plus 400x, and I'll solve for x. To solve for x, I'll take this term, this number, and its variable over to this side, where I have 600x minus 400x, that's 200x, is equal to 500,000. And now we divide both sides by 200. We have 500,000 divided by 200, and this gives us 2,500. Remember what X represents the number of wheelchairs. So 2,500 wheelchairs. We have yet to interpret this. I still want to go ahead and find what my Y is equal to. At this point, I can take 2,500 and place it into here or here to get my Y value. I'll place it into here because this equation is simpler. I have Y is equal to 600 times 2,500, and that gives us, using our calculator, 1.5 million. So 1,500,000. Let's discuss what this means. But first, I'll represent my answers as a point, as an xy coordinate. So x represents the number of wheelchairs, and 1.5 million represents the revenue after selling 2,500 chairs. Therefore, the break-even point shown right here is what the company needs to produce, 2,500 wheelchairs, for it to start profiting from this business. So if you take a look at this visual representation that you have on your screen, and if you graph the two equations, this blue one represents 600x and this black one represents the cost function, 2,500 is the break-even point. So anything before this amount, let's say that you sold 2,000 chairs, you're not making a profit. Instead, you have negative cash flow. After 2,500, let's say you make 3,000 chairs or 2,501 wheelchairs, it is at that point where you start to make a profit. And the 1.5 million represents the amount that you've made in revenue after selling 2,500. But remember, revenue doesn't equal profits. Revenue is the amount of money that comes in after you've started your company. And there you have it. That is how to calculate the break-even point.